Today we're plunging into a really unique account, actually, about a UFO encounter in South Wales. And, well, it's pretty intriguing journey through the world of television.
That's right, detailing an event that unfolded in Barrie, South Wales, way back in 2008. So our aim today is really to thoroughly examine this experience, the local media buzz it created, the ensuing controversy surrounding a certain TV show, UFO Hunters, and ultimately try to understand the individual's perspective on what these aerial phenomena might actually be. Our mission here is to really unpack James M. Powell's experience.
Get into the detail.
Right. We want to give you the shortcut to understanding this whole intriguing case.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Gladstone Road, Barrie, 2008. James Powell, he's in his work van, waiting for his martial arts instructor, passing the time on his phone, an LG flip phone. Remember those?
Oh, yeah.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. He describes capturing footage of a UFO, but the astonishing part, really, is it wasn't visible with the naked eye. It only appeared on the screen of his phone.
And that's just fascinating, isn't it? This method of detection. It wasn't a traditional visual sighting, but, like you said, an appearance on a digital interface. It immediately sparks questions about the nature of the object itself and maybe its potential interactions with electronic devices.
Absolutely. And, the story gets even more compelling. Mr. Powell also mentions that around the same time, South Wales police officers were reportedly tracking a similar object. And local news apparently mentioned, get this, that their helicopter had to take evasive action to avoid a collision.
From this object.
That's what was reported.
Wow.
So it really paints a picture of something pretty significant happening in the skies above Barrie that day.
Yeah, that's a crucial detail, isn't it? When personal accounts are corroborated, or at least have related reports from law enforcement, it often lends a certain weight to the narrative. It suggests that whatever Mr. Powell may have recorded wasn't just, an isolated or easily dismissed event.
And the local context is quite relevant here, too. Apparently, the Barrie area had enough reported UFO activity that the American television series UFO Hunters actually decided to investigate the town. So you can see why Mr. Powell's experience might have seemed like, a perfect fit for their program.
Yeah, and this also provides a little glimpse into the level of public interest in UFOs back then, right? UFO Hunters, being a prominent program, indicates a pretty significant cultural curiosity surrounding these topics. So for someone like Mr. Powell, being approached by a show like that could have felt like a major validation of what he experienced.
Oh, definitely. Now get this, Mr. Powell also recounts a vivid dream he had about 2 weeks before this encounter, a dream that seemed to foreshadow the very thing he would later witness.
Whoa.
But it's one of those details that often crops up in these anomalous experience reports. It really makes you pause and consider the subjective aspects of these experiences, doesn't it?
It really highlights the complex interplay between perception, maybe consciousness, and these kinds of events. It makes you wonder about potential connections we just don't fully understand yet.
Yeah. And according to Mr. Powell's detailed account, this wasn't just some stationary light in the sky. He says the object hovered above a primary school, and he specifically observed it mirroring the movements of nearby trees, almost as if it were, interacting with its environment. That level of detail is quite striking.
It is. Yeah, that detail about shadowing the tree movement suggests a degree of, agency or responsiveness to its surroundings, at least. Yeah. These are the kinds of specific observations and personal testimonies that often fuel further inquiry and, speculation about the nature and capabilities of such objects.
So with all this going on, it's perhaps no surprise that the local newspaper, the Barrie and District News, picked up on the story.
Right.
That kind of local media attention often serves as a pretty significant catalyst, doesn't it? Bringing these kinds of personal experiences into broader public awareness.
Indeed. And that's often how these things start, isn't it? Coverage in the local press would have undoubtedly amplified Mr. Powell's experience within his community. Local news bringing a personal experience out into the open.
Exactly. It validates it for the community, and sometimes, like here, it catches wider attention.
Which it clearly did.
Yeah.
Because that local coverage seems to be what led to the next step.
The invitation from the History Channel show, UFO Hunters.
Yeah. Imagine that call, going from this weird thing you saw on your phone to potentially being on international TV.
Must have felt huge. Okay, now people are really taking this seriously.
Yeah, for someone who has experienced something extraordinary, the opportunity to share their story on a platform dedicated to such topics must feel like a significant step towards having their experience acknowledged and taken seriously.
But here's where the narrative takes a really unexpected turn. Despite participating in an interview for the show, Mr. Powell states that his interview, and crucially the footage he captured, were largely left on the cutting room floor. Only brief snippets of his time with the UFO Hunters team actually made it to air.
This highlights a recurring challenge, I think, for individuals who share unconventional experiences with media outlets. There can often be a significant disconnect between the individual's full account and how it's ultimately presented to the public,
Well, according to the source, the producers cited skepticism because of a misconstrued request for compensation. They apparently felt this request undermined the legitimacy of his whole account.
Compensation. That can be a thorny issue. People sometimes need help with travel, time off work.
Exactly.
But it can easily be spun as paying for a story, which makes networks nervous. It raises questions, doesn't it?
It really does make you wonder, what's the main goal? Is it finding the truth, even if it's messy or involves navigating, human needs? Or is it more about finding stories that fit a certain TV-friendly narrative?
Yeah, and maybe avoiding anything that looks complicated or potentially litigious.
What's particularly intriguing, though, is Mr. Powell's recollection of the interview's actual content. He says it delved into his spiritual perspective on UFOs and extraterrestrial life, a viewpoint he notes has gained more traction in recent years.
Okay.
Well, back in 2008, his view was that these UFOs represent a spiritual phenomena, specifically describing them as fallen angels seeking redemption. That's a rather distinct interpretation, wouldn't you say?
It is a very distinct interpretation, yes. And it's noteworthy that this was his perspective at that time.
Yeah.
Back in 2008. Back then, the dominant framework for understanding UFOs within mainstream discussion tended to lean heavily towards, nuts and bolts extraterrestrial origins.
Right, the ETH.
Exactly.
It was quite an unconventional take back then, though interestingly, he points out that similar ideas have become maybe a bit more common in discussions more recently.
So he was kind of ahead of the curve with that interpretation.
In a way, yeah. Which makes his next question even more pointed.
Which is?
Why suppress that? Why cut out his full disclosure, including this spiritual angle? He sort of suggests that the producer's skepticism about his footage, maybe linked to this compensation issue, might have served as a kind of convenient justification for avoiding his more unconventional spiritual perspective.
An excuse to avoid the unconventional interpretation. If they wanted an alien spaceship story, maybe fallen angels didn't make the cut.
Precisely. And Powell also had issues with how they apparently analyze or didn't analyze his footage.
Oh. What did he say about that?
He recalls someone from the show, or connected to it, suggesting the producers thought he might be some kind of CGI whiz.
The CGI expert, faking it.
Yeah. The implication was he'd faked the footage on a computer.
But didn't you say he was using a flip phone? And did he even have a computer capable of that back then?
According to him, no. He says he didn't even own a computer at the time. He insists that any proper, unbiased analysis would have shown the footage was genuine.
So it begs the question, did they actually do a thorough analysis? Or just dismiss it?
That's what he questions. And here's another interesting point. Even though they seemed iffy about his footage, the show did apparently feature a kind of animated image of the same object, but it was based on photos taken by a different interviewee, which could suggest maybe they wanted the visual but not the guy attached to it or his specific story.
Especially the spiritual angle.
Possibly.
Yeah.
And it's also worth remembering other UFO Hunters episodes did feature UFOs that were only visible digitally, like Powell's, so it wasn't like the concept itself was off limits for them.
Right, so it really does point towards his specific narrative, his interpretation, maybe being the sticking point.
It looks that way.
If it didn't fit the aliens in metal ships box, maybe it got sidelined.
Could be. Which leads directly to Mr. Powell's call for transparency. He has openly invited the History Channel to release his original interview in its entirety. He wants the public to have the opportunity to see it, to scrutinize the content for themselves, and to ultimately judge its merit. For him, this level of openness is fundamental to any genuine disclosure.
That's a powerful stance. It really is.
Yeah, he emphasizes that this level of transparency is absolutely essential for any real progress in understanding these events. It's not just about hearing selected sound bites or interpretations. It's about having access to the complete account and being empowered to draw your own conclusions.
And that really resonates, I think, with a growing desire within both the UFO research community and the broader public.
It's quite remarkable, actually, that Mr. Powell was articulating this specific spiritual perspective all the way back in 2008. This predates some of the more recent discussions and emerging viewpoints that touch on similar themes, perhaps suggesting that our understanding of these phenomena is evolving beyond purely extraterrestrial explanations.
That's a crucial observation, yeah. His view has remained consistent all this time.
When you consider Powell's experience, and especially that spiritual interpretation he had way back in 2008,
Yeah.
what does it suggest about the different ways we should maybe look at these unexplained phenomena? Are we too focused on just one explanation?